Putuo Mountain is one of the four most important mountains for Buddhism in China. In its heyday, there were about 200 over temples, and there are only about 30 nowadays, but the place still gets about 3.3 million visitors a year. So let's find out why all these people choose to come to Putuo Mountain. Let's go. Join me on this journey. I'm Michelle Lean. Welcome to Travelogue.
Putuoshan Island, or the island of Putuo Mountain, is part of Zhoushan Prefecture in Zhejiang Province. But this is where it gets a little confusing, as you'll often hear of the Zhoushan Islands being referred to as mountains. And that's because once upon a time, they were. Now all you can see are the tops of these mountains, and they are what forms the group of Zhoushan Islands. There are more than 1,000 islands here, and while Putuoshan is only one of them, it gets more than its fair share of the visitors here. And the reason for this is simple: Buddhism. To get to Putuoshan, you can fly to Zhoushan Airport, and from there take a bus and ferry across to Putuoshan Island. There are 4 flights a week from Beijing, and 2 or 3 a day from Shanghai. There are also flights from most major cities in China. Oh, and also remember, when you arrive at Putuoshan, there's a landing charge of 160 RMB per person. The first temple built on Putuoshan Island was in honor of the Goddess of Mercy.
A long time ago, a Japanese monk was traveling with a statue of Guan Yin, the Goddess of Mercy, when he got caught in a storm at sea. And what happened was he started praying to Guan Yin in the hope that he would arrive somewhere safely. And he did. He arrived at the island of Putuo Mountain. And that's how Buddhism came to Putuo Mountain. This is where the first temple was. And the locals say that it wasn't the pilgrims or the monks that chose the place where the Guan Yin statue was to be erected, but it was actually Guan Yin herself.
Now, legend has it that it wasn't the Japanese sailor who chose Putuoshan as the location for a temple to the Goddess of Mercy, but the Goddess of Mercy herself, who it seems saved the Japanese sailor's life just so he could erect a temple here. The temple is the only one on the island built in the architectural style of the Tang dynasty, and it may be small, but it's certainly quite important. Putuoshan is one of the 4 famous Buddhist mountains in China. Thanks to its amazing landscape, it's sometimes called Heaven on the Sea and the Kingdom of Buddhists. Many legends are told about how the Goddess of Mercy came to Putuoshan. The most famous is about a monk who had stolen a statue of the goddess from a temple in China, planning to take it to Japan. However, out at sea, he was caught in a terrible storm. He prayed to the Goddess of Mercy, promised to build a temple in her honor if his life was saved, and lo and behold, an invisible hand guided his boat to Putuoshan.
If you're going down the Pilgrim Walk, you probably won't notice these stone carvings immediately because of how intricate they are and how well they blend into the surroundings. But they depict the setting free of captured animals, because I was told earlier that in Buddhism, they believe that all creatures are created equal and no human should capture any living creature or animal. It's really, really sweet. What are they doing?
They are throwing the coin.
Why?
For in Chinese, Guan Yin literally means when everyone is in trouble, just make a sound and call her name. Then Guan Yin would come to help you immediately.
And Guan Yin is the Goddess Mercy, is that one?
Yes, this one.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so if ever you need help, you just throw coins into this thing and it makes a clink clink sound, after which he'll know to come help you. Okay, so I'll give you one and we'll chuck it in. Okay. And you call her name?
Yeah, call her
okay.
name.
So
You
I got it in. Yeah. Yeah, well you did. That was a pretty Good try.
Fuji Temple is the largest temple on Putoshan Island. Built in 1916, it still serves as a place of worship. The story is told about Emperor Zhuang, who visited the temple disguised as a peasant. A monk refused to let him in through the main door and instead insisted that he should use a side entrance. This infuriated the emperor, and he ordered that no one should ever be allowed to use the main entrance again. And this is why if you visit Fuji Temple, you have to enter through a side door. Fuji and the other temples on Putoshan Island are busiest on the 1st and 15 days of each lunar month. Another important day of worship is the birthday of the Goddess of Mercy, which falls on the 26th day at the first lunar month. But even if you're not a Buddhist, you can get a taste of what life's like here for a monk by having lunch with the temple's residents. A fully vegetarian buffet will set you back 10 RMB. But remember, Buddhism preaches that nothing must ever go to waste, so only take what you can eat. And don't forget to do your own dishes afterwards. Our next temple stop is Huiji Temple, the tallest temple on the island. The temple is 6 stories high, and one thing you can't help noticing is that the roofs at each level have different colored tiles. Aside from the most complete and astounding view of Putoshan Island, Huiji Temple is also famous for its large collection of ancient brick carvings portraying, you guessed it, the Goddess of Mercy. If you want to make it up to the temple, it's a leisurely trek up more than 1,000 stone steps. The path itself is paved with carvings, ancient calligraphy, and lotus leaves, all testifying to the presence of the Goddess of Mercy. It's said that walking up this path cleanses you of all your sins. Alternatively, you can also take a cable car ride up.
Putoshan's about over 300 meters high, so if you get tired of walking up this steep hill, you can always take a cable car down. And it's a great view on the way down as well.
On the walk up to Huiji Temple, you may well get a demonstration of Buddhist dedication. When you see the monks and others stop every 3 steps to bow towards the statue of the Goddess of Mercy, you get a real understanding of the power of Buddhism to inspire devotion. I took the cable car down just to get a different view. This time, I wanted to see not the people, but the reason for their visit, the temples and the amazing landscape. At one time, there were around 100 temples on Putoshan Island, but now there are only around 30 left. From the cable car, you can also see some of the local houses. Most of the people who live on this island are Buddhists, and in most of the houses, you'll find altars dedicated to the Goddess of Mercy. By the way, to get to Huiji Temple, you should take bus number 2 from the port. Another must-see temple is Fayu Temple at the foot of Floating Mountain, which is at the northern end of the famous Thousand-Step Beach. Originally called the Sea Tide Nunnery, Fayu Temple started out in life as a simple hut, but it has expanded over the years, and it is now the 2nd largest temple on the island. In 1699, the Qing Emperor Kangxi moved an entire palace building from his capital in what is today Nanjing to Putoshan, where it housed a shrine to the Goddess of Mercy. It's interesting to note that the temple is built on 6 layers, so that it follows the natural contours. An entrance ticket into Fayu Temple will set you back a mere 5 RMB.
It gets kind of busy during the day up in Puto Mountain with all the people visiting the temples. But if you opt to stay here, You can enjoy the tranquility of the early mornings and the late evening when everyone's gone. And I'll tell you this, it's superb because there's a cool breeze in my hair and there's so much greenery around, the birds are chirping, and this wonderful smell. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but it smells a little bit like jasmine. Oh, it's wonderful. It's so nice to get away from the city once in a while.
I reckon one of the best times to visit Putoshan is in spring. This time I'm here in May, and it's really beautiful. The trees are in full bloom and the air is filled with the soft perfume of the flowers. It's sort of like walking around the edge of an aromatherapy pot. The weather is pretty perfect too, sunny in the day and cool in the evenings. And even if you aren't religious, it's easy to get a sense of tranquility here. You learn to slow down, breathe in deep, and enjoy the quiet of the area. It can get a little busy with the flood of tourists, but if you stay away from the main tourist route, you'll be able to find some peace and quiet. There are quite a few 4-star hotels in Putoshan, but we chose to stay at a monastery instead. We picked one of the smaller ones, the Shuangchuan Temple, and stayed overnight, getting up in time to watch the monks at their ritual morning prayers at 5 a.m. I'm not really used to a 7:30 p.m. curfew. That's when the main doors are closed for the night. But who needs a late night when you're looking for a little zen? I was expecting a 4-bed dorm room with outdoor showers. Instead, we were shown into a large bedroom with 3 comfy beds, a TV set, and perfect plumbing. To be honest, it was better than a lot of the hotels where I've stayed in China. If you decide to stay at a temple to witness morning prayers, do check what time they start, because the time varies from temple to temple. Among the guests here are many long-term residents who, for less than 200 RMB a night, get to live among the monks.
You谈了几久？多长时间？
差不多有2年多吧。
2年多啊？那你为什么要弹这个古琴？
古琴音乐这个儒家讲这个。
I'm no expert on Buddhism, but I do know that most of the monks at the temples here are pretty well educated, to higher than degree level. You see, not just any monk can live on Putoshan. The monasteries here are Buddhist academic institutions, so they are quite selective about their residents.
Go.
很好。
还好啊。He says I'm alright. I thought that was kind of fun. That's called a gao, and anything played with my 3rd finger on your right hand is called a gao. So it's quite fun. I'm going to continue my lesson. 好，以后啦，还有。
好，不要再挑。
In a quaint, old-fashioned way, these monk scholars are considered gentlemen, and in China, the sign of a gentleman is his guqin. Many of the monks here belong to guqin associations, in which they come together to practice the art of this ancient instrument that has over 5,000 years of history. The best thing is that when you watch a practice session, you don't have to know much about the instrument or the music being played to appreciate the beautiful sound. I'd like to say that the guqin was sort of like a zither, but that wouldn't be entirely accurate. It's a 5-string instrument, but in the past, it had as many as 10 strings. But even with just 5 strings, I can tell you from experience, it's not an easy instrument to play. Of course, you can always come up with some sort of impromptu piece, but to play it properly, that takes a fair bit of training. Sitting with the monks and watching them practice is really very relaxing. Actually, there's something about Putoshan on the whole that just exudes a sense of tranquility. I wouldn't normally take the time to sit with a cup of green tea in the shade of trees that I'm sure are older than I am, listening to music that didn't come from my iPod. But being here, it all seems so natural, so easy, like something I could do every day without even thinking about it.
At Puto Mountain, you can stay and eat at most of the monasteries. They're mostly vegetarian meals, but there's one rule: you can't waste anything. So you gotta take a little and as much as you want, whenever you want. But there's also another rule: you can't raise your voice, and you have to speak really quietly when you're in here, which is why we're talking in hushed tones right now.
Now, a mere 20-minute walk away from Shuangchuan Temple is the beach. There are two famous beaches on Putoshan, the 1,000-step beach and the 100-step beach, which also goes by the name Taiyuan Beach. It's a little cold at the moment to go for a swim, but if you're looking for some adventure, you can rent jet skis and dune buggies. Otherwise, you might want to join the monks for some reflective moments of meditation. As for me, I decided to join a group of local girls in their yoga session. I have to admit, this is my first yoga lesson, so give me a break and don't call me telling me that my leg wasn't high enough or my arms should have been stretched out further. I'm just happy I managed to come out of the lesson without a pulled muscle or cramp.
You don't have to worship Guanyin or even be Buddhist to enjoy Puto Mountain. When you're surrounded by vast amounts of greenery and wide open beaches, it's not hard to find something you like doing. But for now, I'm going to take the Zen route and enjoy the rest of my yoga session.
From Putoshan, we take a ferry across to one of the biggest fish markets in the area, located in the port of Shenzhen. I'm a city girl, so there's a real novelty for me in hanging around a fish market in the early morning. I don't usually fare too well with the smell of fish first thing in the morning, but the thought of fresh seafood pulled straight from the fishing boats is just making my mouth water. It's almost hypnotic watching the fishermen unload the boats. They have a well-oiled chain system for transferring boxes of ice and seafood from one man to the next until the box reaches the little carts that are used to transport the seafood from the dock to the market. In the old days, you'd see wooden fishing boats in the port of Shenzhen. But these days, the beautiful old craft has been replaced with big, modern, mechanized vessels. If you ask me, I still prefer the wooden variety. The Chen family has been making wooden boats for 3 generations, and they were one of the oldest families in the area to continue the tradition. But the lack of demand for full-size boats made them shift their focus to models of the original wooden boats.
这样子行。
但是这个作坊什么时间开始的？
我们的作坊是我的太爷爷的1900年的时候就开始。
但是你呢？
你
什么时间开始？
我是1975年中学毕业以后，就是开始那个投入了这造出来的项目。
The boats made by the Chen family are entirely handmade in the true tradition of the wooden boats from which the area is famous. The workmanship is highly intricate and every detail is perfect, from the Ming Dynasty style window frames to the sails. If you want to buy a large version of the boat, it'll set you back more than 100,000 RMB. But you can get cheaper and smaller, but perhaps not as detailed alternatives for a couple of hundred RMB.
这个要多长时间做呢？
这个要雕刻出来难度是非常大的，但是这艘船整体造了2个工人造了4个月多。
哇。
造了4个月多。但是
挺难的，听起来。
造实船的时候呢，我们要根据它的比例啊，这种比如说它是1:20的，我们就1:20的放大，就是这样子才成的船。
这个船能下水吗？
这个船能下水，它在下水的时候，它也自己会航行。如果是它有风的时候，它肯定会跑得很快。
是吗？
哎，对。
你试过吗？
试过，肯定它不会漏水。
4 generations of this family have been making wooden sailboats, from the life-size operational versions to the miniature versions like this. And you can even work it, see? You open this and go below deck. Hey, what's going on there? Hoist the sail, sailor. Aye, aye, Captain.
There's one boat in the Zhoushan Islands that's more famous than all the others. It's the Green Eyebrow, and I'm about to hop on board and have a little chat with the captain.
This 船上面有这个2个大眼睛，有什么意思吗？
这个东西呢，说法呢也有很多啊。一种说法呢，这个船的眼睛呢是辟邪的，有这么辟邪的。这是海上嘛，捕鱼的话呢，到海上航行的话呢，这个风险比较大，是吧？这个2只眼睛呢，可以辟邪的。下面有什么妖怪啊什么，看见这个眼睛又怕的，这也是一种说法。人有一种说法呢，这个眼睛呢是捕鱼的这种说法呢，这2只眼睛呢，它要看到下面有鱼没有鱼的话呢，它这个2只眼睛会看到的，这人眼睛一样啊，哎，可以看到下面有鱼的，这个2睛有这个2种意思。哎，对。
The Green Eyebrow is moored in Xinjiamen Port, and you can take a dinghy across the water and climb on board for a tour of the boat and a meeting with the captain. He only speaks Chinese though, so it may be handy to have a translator on hand if you can't speak the language. The Green Eyebrow is a replica of an ancient sailing ship. These days, the Green Eyebrow is an unofficial ambassador of China's ocean shipping culture. The captain speaks proudly of a voyage the ship once made from Zhoushan to Korea, and it traveled the good old-fashioned way, using sails and manpower. The captain recommended the local restaurant at the eateries around the corner.
Zhoushan has over 1,300 islands, and Xinjiamen, the largest port of them all, is booming with the fishing industry. And right next to it is a nice seafood street where you can get the freshest, most beautiful seafood cooked in any way you want. So, I'm going to go and find me some nosh. Great for some late night dining. Hello, 你好。这个是什么鱼啊？ You can tell it's really fresh if it's still jumping like that. 这个是什么鱼？
这个是美国王鱼。
美国 American something fish. It's pretty cool.
Along the seafront here, you'll find a long street of restaurants where the fresh seafood is cooked on the spot. I really shouldn't be playing with my food before I eat it, but when there's seafood in front of me that's still swimming, I need to know that it's the real deal.
We might only been to a couple of places out of the 1,300 Zhoushan Islands, but you get a pretty good idea of what to expect. Great food, a lot of leisurely activities, and if you're religious and pray to Guanyin, the goddess of mercy, well, you know where to go, Putuo Mountain. So, I hope you've enjoyed our trip to the Zhoushan Islands. I'm Michelle Lean. Thanks for watching Travelogue. In the meantime, keep those bags packed.